Welcome back to Making Money Matter, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, as you all know, Kerry Stevenson. Today, I've asked Ben Vallerine. He is the Managing Director and CEO of Koba Resources, but that's Koba with a K, not Koba with a C. It's KOBA Resources, and the ASX code is KOB. Now, the reason I've asked Ben to come on board today for a chat is they've got a uranium project in South Australia, but they just announced a tin and tungsten acquisition up in Queensland, my hometown. So I wanted to find out what the strategy was and to really uncover the shareholder value. So I'm not going to tell you all about it at the moment because I'm going to let Ben do that. But sit up and take some notice. Tin is on a tear, tungsten's strong, and uranium, we just can't get enough of it in the world today, as far as I'm concerned. Ben, great to see you. Welcome to Making Money Matter.
Thanks for having me, Kerry. Great to see you as well.
Good to see you. Look, first time on this channel. I always say to my audience that it's all about management. So before we get started on the projects themselves in Kobar, tell them a little bit about you and why you're a good custodian of shareholder funds.
Well, I'm actually an experienced geologist. I've got about 20 years of experience as a kind of more of an exploration manager. I spent a lot of time in the US, actually exploring for uranium throughout the US. Um, you know, haven't done a lot of tin, but yeah, I'm learning pretty fast, and tin's really simple. Between the uranium experience and my directors have got some. He's also a geologist. He's got some significant tin experience. Was involved with the vending of the Ashmush project into Koba Resources. So across the board, we've got some serious tin experience. A team of a couple of geologists and a corporate guy. So yeah, I think we're really positioned well to move this forward technically, the uranium and the tin.
Okay, well, you listed in sort of the middle of 2022, and then it was always focused on uranium. And ladies and gentlemen, the uranium project it's the Yaramba project down in South Australia. And that was really the focus for a while. And then I saw that you've got this recent acquisition. I want to talk about the acquisition, but before I do, why did you decide to do that? Is uranium not up to standard, or why the sort of
No, definitely not.
routine?
Uranium's doing really well. Uranium's just ticked back up above $80 a pound.
Oh,
So the price is really, really strong. The fundamentals behind uranium are really, really strong. And we're going to continue to work that uranium project. We actually just finished a drilling program out there. We're out there in September, so we're still full steam ahead on our uranium project. I suppose the tin was more of a little bit of a diversification. I came across an opportunity. It was a cheap opportunity. I looked at the project. I really liked the look of the project. I reached out to the guys who owned it at the time. They weren't doing anything with it, and we're able to get a really cheap deal done. We paid $700,000 cash for it, so a really, really cheap deal. And I think they're quite complementary assets. They're both in Australia, so we can run it with an Australian team. They're not international projects. So I'm pretty keen to advance both projects at the same time.
all right. I'll get onto uranium in a moment because I actually really like your uranium projects. But you just said a moment ago that the tin market is strong. You got these projects for a good price. If there's such a good project, why are they selling them?
The sellers have moved into antimony, which is obviously a hot commodity themselves. So,
Yeah.
so they've got a antimony mine in Mexico. They're trying to move along, and then they've also got some antimony assets in Nevada they've recently acquired. So let's say they've kind of changed their focus, and we're happy to move the tin along while they focus on those antimony assets.
Okay, so talk to us about these particular. They're in the Herberton Tin project, which I think has had a really strong history for tin from memory.
Yeah, that's right. The Herberton Tin Field's a kind of famous old tin mining district. It's actually the second largest tin production district in Australia, outside of the Renison Bell area where there's Metals X is still mining tin today in Tasmania. Produced about 75,000 tonnes of tin metal, and the majority of that was between about 1880 and 1930. So, a long time ago, a really stellar history. There has been mining kind of continued a little bit sporadically from the late 1930s all the way through to about 2012 when the final tin mine kind of closed up. But there's been very little work done. Most of the drilling has been done kind of up into the 1980s on our project. So no, not a lot of modern work has been done. So we're really keen to get in there and get after it with some modern exploration, chasing up what the old timers did, years ago.
Have you been up to you've acquired it? Have you been up to site? Have you stomped on the ground? Have you seen what's there? And what are you going to do with it? Because you've got the uranium project down there, but are you going to go hard on this tin project?
Yes, yeah. I've been up to site, yeah. So as part of our due diligence, I took a trip up there and we drove around to all of the prospects. There's a lot of prospects, but we drove around to 4 or 5 of the main prospects and had a bit of a walk around, kicked some rocks, walked around all the old workings, checked out the lay of the land, met some of the station owners in the area, and worked out who's got some equipment in the area, bulldozers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we started building those relationships with the locals and seeing how we could get work done out there, and had a bit of a look at the rocks as well. But what we're planning to do, I'm planning to send 2 geologists up there in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and they'll take that to the next level. They'll kick a lot more rocks, take a whole bunch of samples, get them into the lab, try and work out where we can drill, where we can't drill, and start prioritising drill targets for next year.
I'm known as that gold lady, but I love hearing about other projects as well. Now, a lot of talk about gold and silver at the moment. What's the market for tin like?
Tin's a bit of a smaller niche market, but it's really dependent on these new technologies as well. About 50% of tin's use is in solder, which is the glue that holds electronics together.
Okay.
So, a study by MIT, a big university in the US, ranked tin as the most likely to benefit from new technologies because it's such an important player in solar panels. It's such an important player in all electronics. So any kind of AI, any kind of automation, all those new technologies really, really depend on tin as the glue to keep those things running. So, you know, supply and demand fundamentals for tin are really, really strong because the demand is increasing, but then also the supply is actually having a little bit of trouble as well. Places like Myanmar and Indonesia
Mm.
and the DRC are the leading producers of tin, and there some geopolitical instabilities and some troubles getting production up and running. So the supply has been actually decreasing recently. Demand is increasing, which creates that gap, which is what really drives that not share price, commodity
Yeah.
price up.
He wants the share price to be
That's
driven. But
right.
actually, speaking of which, Ben, just as a bit of an aside, I saw you at the RAU conference in Sydney. Now that was just in May, and I think your market cap was about 6 mil, and your share price was, I think it was three and a bit at the time. And I've
That'd be
looked
about
today,
right.
and ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking today. It's the first week of October, and your share, they clearly the market likes it because your market cap's now about 14, 15 mil, and the share price about 7.5. So you've doubled since May. Was that off the back of this acquisition for tin? In other words, is the market liking what you're doing?
Yes, I think it's a bit of a combination though, Kerry. Kind of uranium had a bit of a lull there for a while in the middle of the year or start of the year
You too,
through to
yeah.
the last month or so. So our share price did start to move when we started our drilling program in September. I think we announced in August we're going to be drilling, and we're out there in September. And the share price did start to move on the back of that before this tin acquisition. So I think we got a bit of traction on the back of being out there drilling. The price started to run again. So I think there was a bit of love coming back into the market for uranium. But then when we announced the tin acquisition and also raised 4.35 million bucks, the market got a bit excited about that as well. And it was kind of, two good news stories happening at once, kind of created the recent rise in share price up to 7.5 today.
So you've got no worries. You as you just said, you raised 4.35 mil at 5 cents a share. So you're not going back to the market, say cap in hand. That's not the reason that you're talking to me today. Uh, you just want people to know that there's a strategy going forward and what that looks like, and that you're focused on the shareholder value. So I want to understand where you think shareholder value will come from the tin project, and then we'll move on to uranium.
Yeah, no worries. So with the tin project, as I said, we've got exposure to this strong tin fundamentals and a rising tin price, a really strong exposure to that. We're in a great district, the Herberton Tin Field, as I said, second largest tin producing district in Australia. there's extensive mineralisation. I'll talk a little bit about it as we go through, but there was over 2,400 mines in the Herberton Mineral Field, and
Really?
a lot of them are small old timer diggings, but
Oh,
but
rada.
that's a lot of mines,
Mm.
and over 400 of them are within our tenements, so it's really exciting. There's mineralisation everywhere, and then it's been under drilled. So we've got 342 square kilometres of land, which is quite a big package, and there's only 147 drill holes completed. So it's not a lot of drilling, and most of that is focused on some of the more significant historical mines. A great jurisdiction. We're still in Queensland, still part of Australia, so it's still a really good place to operate. I said we've got immediate drill targets and some really attractive acquisition terms. So I think that it's a great place to be. And the other commodity we have a lot of on our property is tungsten. We've got no one's ever done a drilling program on our property to target tungsten. It's always been to target tin. Despite that, we've got quite a few hits, particularly at the Gilmore mine, where they've got some exceptional tungsten values, 3 meters at 1% type numbers. So really
Some
high
people,
tungsten.
sorry to interrupt you, Ben, but first of all, some people won't understand what tungsten even is. And secondly, they'll go, well, I don't know, is that a good grade? So if you could dumb it down for us and go, this is why tungsten's good, and this is why you like the grades that you're seeing.
Yeah, so really, I picked this project up for the tin. So tin is the metal we're chasing, but tungsten's a bit of an accessory to tin. They come together a lot, and if they're not coming together, they come in similar types of rocks, so they're around the peripheries of each other. So tungsten again is another one of these metals, the critical metals that's getting a lot of traction at the moment. There was an article today, I think it was in Mining Journal, about the strong price of tin and tungsten, sorry, and the strong demand of tungsten. So it's just another one of these critical minerals that people aren't overly familiar with. Had a really strong price performance recently, and we've got a bit of it on our property, so it's a little bit of an accessory mineral, but very exciting nonetheless. And we've got rock chip samples up to 15%, which is huge. Some of the bigger deposits in Australia, like there's some 2 tungsten deposits in the region already. Mount Carbine is one of them.
Oh, yeah.
And Wolf from Camp's another. And their resources are, you know, less than 0.5%. So
And did you say you got one at 15%?
that's a rock chip sample, yeah,
Ah,
rock chip
okay.
sample. So
Little
it's
bit
not a
different.
not a drill interception, but our drill
Right.
intercepts are around about the 1%, bit over and a bit under. So some really really good grades, and there's never been a dedicated program to tungsten. So it's just one thing that's in our cap as well that we can do as we progress the tin. That's a little bit of a side gig.
So out of that 4.35 mil that you raised, can you help us understand where that money is going to be spent?
Yep. So initially, it's going to be spent at both projects. Let's say that first. But with the tin project, let's talk about that quickly. We're going to go out there in the next couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. 2 geologists I've got lined up to get out there on the ground. They're going to, walk the ground, find some of these historic tin mines, try and map where the veins go or the grisons, depending on which prospect you're at. Try and chase them, try and sample them, work out where we can best position drill rigs for an upcoming program. Get a few samples into the lab to get a good feel of how the mineralization works, where it's rolling along, all that kind of stuff. And then, Cairns has the complication of the wet season, so
Of course, yeah, because
you can't
ladies and
really.
gentlemen, it's not far away from Cairns, so it's hot and it
Yeah,
gets
that's right. So it's about 100 kilometres southwest of Cairns. It's over the back of the rainforest, so it's not as affected by the wet season as the main areas of Cairns are, but you don't really want to be drilling out there probably from towards the end of November through to the end of February, I'd say is you don't really want to be out there. And March is probably shoulder season. So there's that 2 or 3 months over Christmas where you don't want to be working, but that's fine for us because we need to get permits to drill, um, and work out exactly where we're going to drill, which is what the next couple of weeks is all about. So we'll work out where we're going to drill, get some of those permits going over Christmas, and be ready to hit the ground running come March next year.
okay. All right. So that sounds like you've got some plans there. You've got the guys going up. They're going to do their ground survey work. get some data back to you. You'll have time to look at that, find out whether and start the drilling in March of next year. You've got the funds that will go towards that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay. Anything else you want to mention about tin before I get on to one of my favorite subjects, which is uranium?
I wouldn't mind having a quick talk about particularly the Stannary Hills project. This is where we're gonna focus. There's 7 high-grade mines at Stannary Hills that are over about a 1.3 kilometre strike length, and
Mm-hmm.
they all kind of connect up underneath and everything. The old timers must have worked together. But that area produced about 120,000 tonnes of tin ore, roughly around about 2.3% across the 7 mines. Some of them were up to 7.3% tin. So we really, really like this area, and it's only had drilling down to around about 100 metres. So the mine went down to 125, 150 metres, and all the drilling has been really shallow. So that's one place we're really keen to get started at. And one of the hits is 10 metres at 1.3% tin. And then we've also got hits like 54 metres at 0.5% tin. So some really thick lower grade intervals, but some thick high grade intervals. And yeah, we're really excited about this Kitchener trend due to the significant past production, presence of high grade tin in these quartz veins, and that's really, really under drilled underneath a long strike. It's so open that I'm really excited to get the crew out there in the next couple of weeks and hit it with some rock chip sampling and try and work out how we're going to drill this thing as soon as we can.
I've got to say, Ben, your whole demeanor changed when you were talking about Stannary Hills, because it's like you can sense that there's a bit of excitement there.
Yeah,
It's the one you really want to stamp your foot on.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I just wanted to mention that one quickly because that is the one I'm excited about, and that's the one we'll certainly start with.
Oh, you'll start with Stannary Hills. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where we'll start. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
All right. Okay. Well, good to know. So lots of news flow coming through from that as you start that. So we'll keep an eye on that. Can we please go down to South Australia now?
Yeah, of course.
Uh,
Yep.
this was what the company was started on. And my listeners will know that I think that uranium is the fuel of the future. We are so undersupplied with energy. We know that it's clean, it's zero carbon. There's so many ticks for uranium, and in South Australia they're very pro uranium. So talk to us about the latest news for Uramba, and where again comes back to shareholder value, what you're seeing going forward.
Yeah, that's right. We've actually only had the Uramba uranium project since January 2024. So
Okay.
that's when we acquired it. Kind of at the time, uranium was just starting to pick up when we started looking for uranium. Kind of the back end of 2023, we really started looking for uranium. And by the time we picked up the Uramba project, uranium was $106 a pound. And ever since we picked it up, uranium's been on the decline until kind of April this year when it started to pick up again. But I love uranium. As I said, I worked in the US chasing uranium deposits for 6 years. Um, Back in the previous boom, 2007 through to 2012 when I lived in the US chasing uranium. So it's kind of a bit of a homecoming for me back to uranium. It's had a bit of a lull after 2012, but now it's back with a vengeance, and so am I. Um, and the Uramba project is hosted in the same kind of geology as Boss
Oh, yep.
Energy.
Yep.
So our projects are only 17 kilometres north of Boss's Honeymoon mine. So you know that Uramba Paleo channel that also hosts Boss's Honeymoon deposit and also Boss's Jason deposit, and that 35-kilometre stretch of the Uramba Paleo channel hosts 50 million pounds of uranium, and that same Uramba Paleo channel flows to the north and straight into our tenements. So we are literally 4 k's north of about 50 million pounds, between 4 and 20 k's north of about 50 million pounds of uranium, and we have the same geology, same rocks, same basically the same fluvial system flowing straight onto our ground. So we're really excited about what could be there. We have 5,000 square kilometres of package, which is enormous. It's 120 k's from south to north, and about 40 k's from east to west. So it's an enormous project, and we've got about 250 kilometres of these uranium-bearing paleo channels actually on our ground. So that we have no shortage of drill targets out at Uramba, that's for sure.
So where are you now? Because we're coming up to the end of 2025. You picked this up in January of 2024.
Yep.
Again, going back to, I'm all about shareholder value. What's next for this project?
Yeah, so we literally just finished our drilling program in September. That
Yep.
was announced only a week ago
Yeah, saw
that
that.
we made another discovery. So we have what we call the Oban area, where we're in the previous year in 24, that we drilled in 24, 25, step back a bit. We drilled 12,000 meters. We focused initially in the Oban area, confirmed, the Oban deposit itself is a 4.6 million pound historical resource there at 260 ppm. So we initially focused around that area. The best place to find uranium's where there's uranium.
Yep.
So we focused on that Oban area. We proved that was all there, and we started stepping out a bit, and that's when we made a couple of discoveries. So the first discovery we made was at Berber, where we hit 1.6 meters at 1,000 ppm, which is really good, nice and thick, and good mineralization, enough to be economic for an ISR operation. Obviously, one hole.
ISR, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is just in situ recovery. Is that a cheaper way of?
Yeah, it's a cheaper and, let's say, more environmentally friendly. You mine by drilling. So you drill a hole into the ground, you pump in a solution, and then you basically suck that solution out some holes that are 50 meters away, and the uranium is dissolved in that solution as it moves between the holes. You bring it to the surface, you strip the uranium out of water, you pump it back down with a bit of lixiviant, and it dissolves the uranium, and you basically just keep pumping that through the uranium ore body, and it slowly dissolves it over time, actually reversing the natural process of how these deposits formed back in the day.
Clever stuff. Clever stuff. So again, you've got the funds, careful use of funds. Is it going to be 50-50? Because as a potential shareholder, and I guess to your current shareholders, are they happy that there's been this distraction up to Queensland? Because I don't know, wouldn't you want to just put all your focus into this uranium? Because I really like this South Australian uranium. I'm not saying I don't like the tin. I just want to push you a little bit on the strategy and making sure it's right going forward. I'm sure you've gone through all this, but
yeah, I think our shareholders have been pretty happy to have a bit of both. There's two ways to look at it. Are you confusing people? Are you
yeah,
alienating your uranium investors, or you're adding value through diversification? What happens if uranium has a lull or uranium has a low? We've got the tin project there to drive strong. We'll operate on two fronts, and the ratio will probably start off 50-50. If you have more success at the uranium, we'll keep going with the uranium a bit harder. If we have more success with the tin, we'll keep going with the tin. So, we're a small company. We can be flexible and fluid,
nimble.
but and a lot of these things will come down to the market too. If the market wants us to spend more on uranium, we can spend more on uranium. But at this stage, I'm thinking 50-50 is about the right mix, and
Okay.
we've got our team's got the bandwidth and the capability to take on both, and we can employ contractors to help out when we've got drilling programs going. So
Okay.
I think it's great to have, let's say, there's more than one egg in the basket.
All right. I'll buy that one off you, Ben. Quite a tight capital structure at the moment. And how many shares on issue?
So at the moment we've got about 200 million. But after the raise, so the raise won't settle until our AGM in November,
Okay.
and then we'll have closer to 280 million by the time that's done.
Okay. And fairly tight capital structure, good use of funds, getting into the ground, lowish overheads, corporate overheads. Give us 3 reasons why you think people should be sitting up and taking notice of Koba Resources right now.
Yeah, I think uranium. We're active. We're out there drilling uranium projects. We're having discoveries. We have 3 discoveries in our last drilling program. Another discovery in our most recent drilling program. Uranium is going on a tear, I reckon. As you say, uranium is the right commodity, the right time, and it's going to be the future of our energy needs. Australia might not like uranium, but the rest of the world does.
Yeah.
We're mining, and Australia's mining uranium for the rest of the world.
Don't get
And
me
then
started, Ben. Don't get me started. We should be having it down here. And for all of you numbnuts out there that turn around and say, we don't want uranium in our backyard, what are you, crazy? It is
Yep.
cheap power. It's carbon zero, no emissions. It's the best. I don't know why we don't do it.
Yeah, and even the greenies have come around. I used to distribute a book at one stage. It was about a leader of Greenpeace who was pro-nuclear now. Done the done
Yes.
the done the full turnaround, and for all those reasons you said, probably the greenest energy there is, to be honest. Um,
What was
and
his name again? Because I remember, I haven't read the book, but I remember.
This was
Um,
the one I'm talking about was a lady. I think her name was Alison Craven.
oh, okay. No, I'm thinking of somebody else.
Mm,
But yeah, some of them are coming around and going, "Oh, that's right, uranium. It's clean energy."
that's right. Yep. They just don't like mining in general, but you've got to mine everything, don't you?
You do. Now, before we finish up, I just want to ask you quickly. South Australia is very pro mining. Don't they also do? You get some funding from the South Australian government to help you with exploration. Is that right?
There has been in the past. There hasn't been one this year, so we didn't get an opportunity to apply for that. But
Okay.
but yeah, they have been very supportive of uranium exploration in general, and they're pro development. They have the three producing uranium mines in South Australia. In fact, all of Australia's producing uranium mines are in South Australia,
South
sorry.
Australia, yeah.
That's Olympic Dam, Honeymoon, and then also the Beverley mine. People don't hear a lot about the Beverley mine because it's
Private.
privately owned, but it's been continuously producing uranium for over 20 years now. Um, so,
Yeah, and sending it
that's a
away to
great
other
story.
people to
Yeah,
get
that's right.
cheap power.
You actually gets exported out of the Port of Adelaide. So it goes down to Adelaide and actually goes out of the Port of Adelaide. So South Australia isn't too worried about uranium.
No, it's really good. I think it's a really interesting story, Ben, and I wish you all the best with it. You're back to what you love. I was a bit skeptical, I have to say, at the start about what the heck are they doing with tin and tungsten in Queensland. But as you said, you can manage it and it diversifies and and it's almost like it's a balance for you.
That's right. That's right. It's a balance. Yep. Yep. You only don't like the tin because you love uranium so much. So
Yeah,
you,
probably.
you can
Uranium
love
and
you can
gold.
love
Yeah.
the uranium and like tin. That's where you're at.
I think that's a good summary, Ben. Please come back and keep us updated if you get some news, because I love our audience to find out. But also, I just wanted to say congratulations, not just about what you're doing, but also the market likes what you're doing. You've raised the funds. You know, you're not out there rattling the tin. You've got the funds to get going. So make sure you come back and keep us updated. But thanks for joining me today on Making Money Matter.
Excellent. Thanks for having me, Kerry. It was a pleasure.